The other main beneficiaries, it seems to me, of this, the main one you've already mentioned, Emily, is Galloway.
Yeah, and if Galloway is a name that you've heard without necessarily having a face or a figure or a political background to put to him, let us take you right back to the mid-90s when George Galloway set himself up as the friend of, the advocate of Saddam Hussein.
Sir, I salute your courage, your strength, your indefatigability. I can honestly tell you that there was not a single person to whom I told I was coming to Iraq and hoping to meet with yourself who did not wish me to convey their heartfelt, fraternal greetings and support.
And look what's happening in Rafah, or might be about to happen in Rafah at the moment. 1.4 million people in the south of Gaza who are nowhere else to go and might find themselves once again bombed out of existence. You can have the argument about that and what Netanyahu's strategy is.
It's weird if Labour is behind the Conservatives, at least behind Lord Cameron, and behind Joe Biden, the Democrats, American friends. It came to light today that Joe Biden, in secret, has called Netanyahu an arsehole, or maybe an asshole. But, that's something that was either leaked to let us know his real feelings, or is something that came out, but does show that even America, even Israel's staunchest ally, is now thinking, what on earth are we doing leaving this guy in charge? He's not getting us anywhere. Yeah, I would say that Donald Trump doesn't have many ideologies. He doesn't really have a framework of thought that he properly, consistently sticks to. But this might be one area where he has been consistent. And I remember in 2016, the New York Times breaking the news that he didn't believe in Article 5, which is the mutual defence clause in which, NATO goes to the defence of any other part of NATO, any other NATO member that is invaded. And Donald Trump said very baldly, like 8 years ago, you're on your own, pal. I think he was asked about the Baltic countries and he was like, you're on your own, pal. So this has always been a theme. He talks about NATO in the way that you talk about a deal and getting value for money. And he doesn't think America has value for money.
Given that the only country to have invoked Article 5 in the whole history of NATO's existence is the United States after the September the 11th attacks, and given that countries like the UK, Poland, Norway, Denmark all contributed to the war effort in Afghanistan and in Iraq, can we have our money back, please?
Well, he probably thinks that 9/11 was a Bush conspiracy.
What I didn't realize, and I've been around, I know I don't look like it, but I've been around a while. I do remember that.
Emily, it was utterly dismal for Joe Biden, bringing back to life Mitterrand, Helmut Kohl, and then Donald Trump decides he'd go one better. He'd talk about NATO and how Russia had the right to go and start to bomb or invade countries that weren't paying their fair share into NATO's coffers.
No, I would not protect you. In fact, I would encourage them to do whatever the hell they want. You got to pay.
And if you are a US voter right now, then boy, have you drawn the short straw, because you have facing you two candidates that we already know 70% of the electorate would not choose from either party.
I think it's fair to say that Marjorie Taylor Greene, the Republican firebrand of the right of the Conservative Party, absolute diehard Trump supporter, she does speak for quite a reasonably sized element of the House of Representatives, in particular, Republican part of it. I think it's fair to say that she hasn't taken Lord Cameron's message entirely to heart.
Britain's Foreign Secretary David Cameron says that you should vote through funding for Ukraine. What do you say to that?
I think he tried to compare us to Hitler also. And if that's the kind of language he wants to use, I really have nothing to say to him.
Well, he likened you to an appeaser to Hitler in not voting through funding for Ukraine. Are you an appeaser for Putin?
I think that I really don't care what David Cameron has to say. I think that's rude name-calling, and I don't appreciate that type of language. And David Cameron needs to worry about his own country, and frankly, he can kiss my ass.
But do you think Putin's the good guy in all this?
Right, that is it from all of us for this week, but we couldn't leave you without a brief update from our very own Australasia correspondent, Mr. John Sopel. I think it's fair to say that there has been some acrimony, bit of bad blood, on Team Newsagent this week, with John feeling that Emily and I were being a little bit unkind to him as the week progressed. Well, John has sent us another WhatsApp voice note this morning, and I'm pleased to report that all seems to have been patched up and he hasn't taken any of it to heart. Emily sends her apologies for not finishing the show with us, but you've got to remember it is a Friday. She's normally 10 to 12 pints down in Bump House by now. John Smith's or Krabby, since you were asking. And John, meanwhile, while he's, as you're listening to this, he's high in the sky, quietly sozzled on the flight from hell. But don't feel too sorry for him. Believe me, he only ever turns left.
The Newsagents. This is a Global Player original podcast.